Okay, let's talk about the elephants in the room, and those would be the albums that I disqualified from my top 10 albums ranking. So for context, I did something really different this year from what I normally do. That was kind of similar to what I did last year, but this time I really leaned into it, and that is I tried to listen to as many albums or EPs of either personal interest or other people's interest or just the general interest in the music industry. And that took me to a lot of places. More popular artists, as I listened to Brat by Charlie XCX, and Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande, and bigger artists like that. But also more obscure artists, such as the There Must Be Something Here album by A Cloudy Sky, or Everything We Never Thought We Would Lose by Depth Oblivious. So because I've covered so many albums, this is of course going to take me to some interesting places where people have some things to say that may challenge my worldview and my way of thinking, even if I don't come out of the other side of that agreeing with it. For a lot of people, profanity wouldn't be an issue, and it used to be an absolute off limits. I would never listen to a song that had profanity in it. And now I have a little bit of a different mindset. And I feel like in the especially Christian music listening space, it's more of an issue. The idea of listening to songs or albums with profanity in them. I still definitely have boundaries. Like there are definitely so many songs out there that are like way over the top, overly vulgar, and I'm just not interested in listening to someone just unload their thesaurus of profanities into my ears directly through headphones. But every once in a while, there'll definitely be an album or EP of interest that has a little more to say than I would like to hear. And in those cases, I don't necessarily want to promote them as yeah, absolutely. I think everybody should listen to this album, even if I believe that it's some of the best lyrical or production work of the year. Because there are all sorts of adages about that. Garbage in, garbage out. And there's plenty that the Bible has to say about garbage out. What comes out of your mouth is what makes you unclean. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is good for building others up according to their needs so that it may benefit those who listen. So the mindset that I've kind of taken with music listening, especially when I've been looking at these albums/EPs of interest, because ultimately these albums or EPs of interest are interesting to me because of the artists involved. So it's almost like, especially with artists that I am familiar with, I am taking it's like they're taking me out to coffee and we're just chatting. Maybe an EP is a short conversation in the hallway, whereas an album is a bit more of like a coffee outing where we're getting a little bit deeper and we're talking about whatever is going on in their life. But it's more of a one-sided conversation. It's more like I'm asking questions and they're choosing whether or not to answer them, and I'm just listening to what they have to say. With that comes the caveat: if a person or an artist specifically turns out to be a bad influence on me, then I absolutely shouldn't associate myself with them. This is pretty much the mindset that we have for people. If they're a bad influence on you and they're taking you down a wrong path, you absolutely should not hang out with them. And in the same way, if music is taking me toward a bad path, then I absolutely shouldn't continue going down that path. All that's to say, I disqualified any album or EP from a ranking that has more than half of the songs in a state where I would skip the song due to content concerns. And actually, if it hit the exact halfway point in number of tracks that I would skip due to content concerns, then it is also disqualified. So first, let's get into this new ISOKNOCK album, Forever. This is becoming increasingly untrue as more albums have started to sneak their way into the top spots, but this might have made an honorable mention for the list. Unfortunately, 4 of the 8 songs have something that I disagree with, that I don't want to be listening to, but in terms of the trap production, the hybrid trap production, it just goes. It has so much energy. I mean, one of the tracks is called Energy, but some of them are called Energy or some kind and then don't deliver on it. This absolutely delivers on it. The hybrid trap production goes so hard. The sound design is interesting in several areas. In fact, Thrash Party Starter, which unfortunately would be more of a red light that I would label if you're following me on Album of the Year, which, by the way, any album that I discuss here, I have reviewed on Album of the Year with content warnings. So definitely go and check those out if avoiding those kinds of things is important to you, just as it is to me. But Thrash Party Starter has a real interesting sound for the first drop just at the very beginning, which is crazy that it happens at the very beginning, because then the rest of the album is just super solid, not like particularly neck-breaking hybrid trap, but it's so fun, super cool, heavy production. And then it gets into a little bit of a more reserved sort of melodic style for the last two tracks. Yeah, the last two tracks, which I was not expecting from ISOKNOCK. But yeah, just super fun album that I would recommend if you're into this sort of thing. Second album I want to talk about is this new Porter Robinson album, Smile. However you pronounce that. Some people may have been surprised to see that Smile was not in the top 10 albums list. I think that if it weren't disqualified due to content due to 5 songs, and anybody could probably guess which, then it probably would have made about the number 8 spot. Or number 9 spot on my top 10 albums of the year. So it definitely would have made the top 10. I do think that this is a fantastic album that is a really honest and like conflicting commentary on the parasocial relationship between big musicians and content creators and their fans, especially ones that have such a like strong feel like they have such a strong connection to the creator, which Porter Robinson definitely has a community where his community is very attached to him as a person and as an artist. I really liked Worlds when I first listened to it. I have yet to review it, but Nurture is one of my favorite albums of all time. It might actually be my favorite album of all time. So I wasn't expecting like Nurture level stuff with Smile. I was just expecting a really fun Porter Robinson album that I could just enjoy. And I got a lot more than just a fun Porter Robinson album I could enjoy, even though that kind of was the point of the album at the very beginning when he was first making it, just to leave all the depth out of it and just write something fun. But still, even with all the depth that he gave the album and all of the really emotional hard hitters like Russian Roulette and Easier to Love You and Is There Really No Happiness, you can still hear the fun in this album. There are several tracks that are just like so I don't know, anthemic and euphoric and even just carefree. Cheerleader is definitely an anthemic, euphoric one. And Kitsune Maison Freestyle is a lot more laid back and just kind of like swag. It also blends the kind of classic analog Porter style of Worlds with this kind of new direction that he took this album, with this sort of pop rock style that kind of takes you back to the 2000s. A lot have made a comparison to 2000s rock, which makes a lot of sense. But I fully expect that after this album, he's probably, I mean, if he makes an album 4, it's definitely not going to sound anything like Worlds or Nurture or Smile, but it's probably going to take elements of those, because Smile definitely took elements of Worlds and elements of Nurture, but took it in a completely new direction that you would have never expected. That's pretty much the pattern for Porter Robinson every time he releases an album. I actually liked this album so much that I went through each of the songs and actually made clean versions of all of them so that I could just listen to the album front to back without having to worry about any of the things that would be red light. Just a fantastic album. I wish that there wasn't so much language, but that's just me. Probably not an issue for a lot of people. Definitely just a personal issue, but still. Would highly recommend this album. Just definitely listen to it with the lyrics next to you and really think about the implications of what he's trying to say. And finally, let's talk about this new Abby Holliday album, Crack a Smile, Come On, Stay a While, which if it wasn't for 6 of the songs having some sort of like reference to a lifestyle choice or certain profanities that I wouldn't like to hear, it would have been probably my number 2 album of the year. I could talk about all of them in summary and lose myself, so I'm going to take it one step at a time. Let's talk about the storytelling first. I don't know what she was imagining when she was writing this album, but what I was kind of imagining was a single moment in time where somebody is going to bed at the very beginning, and then by the end of the album, is sort of scared to wake up, but it's morning time, so that's kind of, she has to. That's kind of where we're at. And if you take the interpretation that way, the idea of making an entire album over a single point in time and making it still so engaging and so dynamic and so progressive is just, it's just mind-blowing that somebody could do that so effectively. There have been some albums this year that I think have tried to throw you into the depths of desperation at the very beginning and almost just like yell at you. You are desperate for this album. You are in the depths of desperation. They do that to lesser measure. I'm thinking specifically Biggest Sounding Songs by John Michael Howell, which I didn't like all that much, and Fireworks and Rollerblades by Benson Boone, which I did like quite a bit, but he definitely tries to throw you into the depths of despair when maybe you're not quite ready for it or the music doesn't lend itself to that yet. Abby Holliday starts with a track called Earth Eating Tree, which kind of throws you into the depths of despair, but it's a really effective way, and it actually takes it in a more reserved fashion, so it's very unassuming at the very beginning, but then it kind of takes you throughout the album through various different ebbs and flows, whether you're in the depths of desperation or just on top of it and you've just kind of talked yourself out of it, but you know you're probably going to have to go into another sort of bout of that. So there's the storytelling. The production is superb. I did listen through the other Abby Holliday albums, and the first one, When We're Far Apart, I Fall Apart, was a more poppy, less electronic style, which I liked, but it definitely didn't blow me away. And then you had a little more of an abrasive, electronic, rocky sort of style with I'm Okay, No I'm Not. This one kind of toes the line between the two, and it does it in fantastic fashion, which makes, I think, this album the best album that Abby Holliday has ever made. It's a heartbreaking album, not just because of the relational aspect of a lot of what she's singing about, but especially the faith aspects of what she's singing about, because sometimes she does address faith and her relationship to God or this idea of God. And it is absolutely heartbreaking to hear somebody talk about it like that, but it's the reality of the world. I had a similar experience with a bit of a lesser album, but the James and the Shame album, Human Overboard, last year. Well, actually, maybe a couple of years ago. Yeah, church hurt and just faith hurt in general. It's a very real thing that it's one of those issues that we as Christians haven't gotten great yet at addressing. So yeah, I think that albums like this are something that we really need to consider, and I think are very important, especially for the Christian to consider when we're looking at how people look at faith from an unbeliever's point of view. As far as I know, Abby Holliday is an unbeliever. There's even a song called At Some Point You'll Have to Be Angry at All of This, that deals with SA in a way that is just like, it's so heartbreaking, man. So if you're not interested in a heartbreaking album, definitely don't delve into this. But man, if you are interested in just in a story that really immerses you in the feelings of the character, this is absolutely the album for you. If you're interested in it, or if you're not bothered by some of the content concerns that I would have with it. So those are the disqualified albums due to content. If you're interested in any of these albums, the ratings that I gave them, what I might have content concerns with, then I'd recommend going to my Album of the Year account, also called No Matter. I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are in the comments. Thank you guys for going along on the end of year journey with me, and I'm real interested to see what 2025 has to offer. So I've been No Matter. See you guys later.